In this video, we'll talk about sunk cost bias. Sunk cost means the investment of time, money, and other resources that are irrevocable. Sunk cost bias refers to our tendency to invest further in a failing course of action, which is a lost cause. The sunk cost bias is also known as escalation bias or escalation of commitment. We tend to pay attention to the costs that are not recoverable when making decisions on future courses of actions. For example, you have invested so much time and effort in developing a project that has never worked. Since you don't want to waste all the effort you've already put in, you escalate your commitment to the project and invest more resources. In an effort to turn things around, decision makers usually escalate their commitment, continuing to sink efforts into a lost cause and double down on a failing strategy, even after a considerable amount of invested resources yield undesirable results. Rationally, we know that sunk cost, which is the investment made in the past, is irrelevant to the current decision, but it still preys on our minds, leading us to make poor decisions. Two wrongs do not make a right. We continue to put in time and effort in the bad decision because it is difficult to admit making a mistake. Once we invest resources in a course of action, we tend to justify those investments by escalating our commitment, even when new information suggests that doing so is unwise. Why can't we free ourselves from past decisions? It's because we are unwilling, consciously or unconsciously, to admit to a mistake. Acknowledging a poor decision in one's personal life may be purely a private matter, involving in only one's self-esteem. But in leadership, a bad decision is often a very public matter, inviting critical comments from colleagues and communities. If you fire a poor performer you hired, you are making a public admission of poor judgment. It seems psychologically safer to let him or her stay on, even though that choice might only lead to more mistakes down the road. If you are presented with evidence suggesting you've made a poor decision, will you make a better decision by staying the course or changing the course? The rational you would say, of course, I'd admit my mistake and change the course. But the findings of experiments show that people who change the course in the face of evidence are considered more intelligent but less confident. As the authors suggested, if you want to appear intelligent, it is wise for you to change your mind. But if you want to appear confident, it is unwise to do so. This is another reason that the sunk cost bias is particularly robust among leaders who want to appear confident and escalate their commitment to a failing cause. Recall that leaders are vulnerable to overconfident bias we've discussed in an earlier video. Overconfidence bias refers to our tendency to have overconfidence in our skills, leading us to overestimate our ability to influence decision outcomes. Making decisions as a group might amplify the sunk cost bias. Please take a note here. Group decision does not reduce, but amplify the sunk cost bias, especially when the group decision-making process is guided by leaders who have high implicit power motivation. The implicit power motivation is a non-conscious desire for having an impact on others. Individuals have high power motivation have a need to influence, control, or impress other people, achieve recognition, and enjoy the gratification of power-oriented behaviors, such as asserting social influence and dominance, aggressively controlling other people's behavior, and ostentatiously display of valued personal characteristics. In making decisions about U.S. foreign relations, the leaders who were high in implicit power motivation and officiated over the group deliberations led to the decisions of escalation of the Korean War and the escalation of Vietnam War. In this video, we talk about the sunk cost bias. It is our tendency to escalate our commitment and make further investment in a failing course of action. Now it is time for you to provide an example of the sunk cost bias and reflect on how it influences decisions made by you or the people around you.